What's going on, everybody? Nick Whalen and Alex Barutha here. It is the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast. There we go, Alex. We got the wrong framing going on here if you're watching us live. All right, that looks a lot better. We are in the dog days of the fantasy basketball season for some. We're also in the midst of the playoffs for others, but kind of an odd time in the fantasy basketball calendar. I am very closely tracking like the Utah Jazz injury report every night. Do I start Kyle Filipowski? Do I not start Filipowski? We just got word that the Raptors are already ruling out Jakob Poeltl and RJ Barrett for tonight's game. But that is kind of the point in the season where we're at. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the big additions that were made in some of our competitive leagues, some teams that we're keeping an eye on, some players down the stretch to either add or drop. And we'll, of course, answer as many of your questions from the chat, which are already stacking up as we can here. Alex, taking a look at the 16-team RotoWire Stake League. We always like to use that as a add drop barometer. Doesn't tend to be a ton out there, although these last few weeks, I found a handful of appealing options. Was unable to get Miles McBride, who I'm surprised was still out there. I was excited when I saw him on the available list, but our guy Aaron Quinn swooping in with $25 for Miles McBride. And for context, this is a league that does not have playoffs. It's all about where you finish in the final standings. And the league wraps up at the end of March. So it's basically a 2-week sprint at this point.
Yeah, if you have leftover fab budget, it's kind of use it or lose it, right? So that's the position I was in. That's the position Aaron was in. But yeah, McBride, certainly someone worth rostering because it seems like Brunson's still going to be out for a while, and we've gotten 3 pretty good games out of McBride, and the first one was kind of it wasn't that great, but he's pretty much a must roster player in probably even 12-team leagues.
I think so. I mean, we got the news last week or over the weekend, really, that Jalen Brunson is likely to remain out for another 1 to 2 weeks. So if you're playing in a league or you're in the playoffs right now and your season is ending within that 2 weeks timetable, I think you got to go get Miles McBride if he's still out there. I mean, like you said, the numbers haven't been overwhelming. He's started now 4 games since Brunson went down, 14.5 points, 5.5 assists, 3 rebounds. But he is playing 35 minutes a game. And I don't think that's going to change. The shooting hasn't been great. He's shooting under 40%. He's shooting it well from 3. However, he's taking a lot of threes. So again, if you're in a category league, that's a big help. And I mean, the usage rate has been there. He's taken like 15 shots per game.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're rostering him, you're rostering him for point guard stats like assists, steals. People have been asking us all year, should I roster Keon Ellis? This is like souped up Keon Ellis that you have to roster.
Yeah, and in accordance with this, we did see Jalen Brunson dropped. Again, this is a league that ends at the end of March, so if your league does go through all the way to game 82, maybe you're not doing that. But I think we're at that point in the season, right, where you're going to start to see players like that. Somebody dropped Emmanuel quickly last week. He was picked up this week.
That was Kyrian. We talked about it on the podcast. He was like, should I drop Emmanuel quickly? Is that like bad form? I'm like, honestly, I don't think so. I think you're fine.
Bad form.
Well, just like he's going to play in theory like half the games,
right?
And Kieran's like, well, I don't need his stats, and he's probably only going to play half the games. Is this like bad league etiquette? And I was like, I don't think so because there's only a few weeks left, and so like best case scenario, the person who picks Emmanuel quickly up, which he got picked up for $9,
right,
might only get like 5 games out of Emmanuel quickly the rest of our fantasy season.
Yeah, and this is a league too where it's weekly lineups. You lock them in before games start on Monday, and that's that. I mean, you don't have the ability to swap in. It's not like the NFBKC where you go Monday through Thursday and then you get your weekend lineup. I mean, Toronto has a 3-game week. They play tonight, they play Thursday, and they play Sunday. A lot of 3-game weeks, by the way, around the league this week with the NCAA tournament. I mean, he's basically just playing every other game right now. I think the Raptors are on thin ice with the league office, so they will probably try to meet those minimums, but they're kind of right there with the Utah Jazz as far as teams I don't trust. I mean, luckily Scotty Barnes has been playing. I know you and I talked a little bit about that either last week or the week before. I'm still crossing my fingers every time that Raptors injury report comes out. I mean, he's only missed like 2 of the last 10 games, but they're also monitoring the minutes of a lot of these guys. I mean, Scotty Barnes he's played 7 of the last 8 games, but he's only played more than 30 minutes twice in that span. And you look at his last 4, 27, 26, 24, 28 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, he's putting up fine numbers, but he's shooting terribly. And I think it's just because if you're the other team, why even bother guard any other player on the Toronto Raptors other than Scotty Barnes? Um, it's, it's again, this is a really tough situation. I thought that tanking might not be this bad. I'm surprised it's this bad. I'll put it that way. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of it, like some of it's circumstantial. Like I completely understand. Like, what are you supposed to do if you're the 76ers? If you're
Sure.
Dallas? Like that makes
Dallas. Yeah.
whatever. But I also think this goes to show you like how many of these teams actually believe in Cooper Flag as like a franchise changing
Right.
generational talent.
I think that's true. I think that's true. I mean, and I think part of it is there's a lot of interest in Dylan Harper. There's interest in Ace Bailey. There's interest in VJ Edgecombe. Like it's,
It's a good
it's
top
not
five, right?
right. I mean, I would say there's a really good top four, and
Okay.
there are certainly some interesting players in the lottery. Like this is, I don't think this is going to go down as like an all time draft. It's probably about average, maybe a little bit above average because you have the Cooper Flag piece at the top. But it's not last year, right? It's not last year where you're looking around with like the 7th overall pick and you're like, please just give me somebody who will like turn into a rotation player. It's not going to be like that. So I think that is part of it. But it's not guaranteed, right? Like tanking does not just get you the number one pick like it does in the NFL. That's what's so strange to me is that, I mean, teams like, I mean, Utah's been doing this all year. Washington was going to be bad no matter what. Charlotte was going to be bad no matter what. You know, New Orleans is in that boat of like, okay, things went so badly for them injury wise early on. It's hard to fault them for pulling the plug. And honestly, the Pelicans have been playing most of their guys. You know, they're just bad. They're just a bad team. They've lost too many pieces. But, you know, we're ultimately talking about a best case scenario of like, what, 14% chance that you get the number one pick. So it's like, it's a lot. Like if you're Utah to start pulling the plug at like the 35 game mark for a 14% chance at the number one pick.
I think some of this is that the odds might not be flat enough. Like the only flat odds are 1 through 3.
Right.
So if we're talking about number one pick potential, it's 14, 14, 14 for 1 through 3. And then everything else is scaled. So you get 12 and a half, 10 and a half, 9, 7 and a half, 6. So it's like, if you're in the top 3, you just got to make sure you stay there. But like for anybody else, it's like, you got to like every percent matters.
Utah, by the way, has officially overtaken the Washington Wizards for the worst record in the NBA. Not something I thought we would see this year. Washington sneakily been playing pretty well. Big win over Denver. That was like one of the worst losses anybody's taken all year. Like winning in Denver.
Well, and now Denver's like, we might have to sit some guys. I think this is getting sketchy. Like everybody, like Murray, Gordon, and Jokic are all questionable tonight. It's just immediately they were like, actually, maybe we need to start preparing for the playoffs a little bit, get some fresh legs because we just lost. Because Alex Sarr just made Jokic look like a turnstile.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm reading this correctly, Alex, the Wizards are 9-10 in their last 19 games. Like my Wizards under, I think it was 19 and a half wins, 18 and a half. Like that's all of a sudden looking like super dicey. I mean, they've been like close to league average. I shouldn't say close to league average, but they've been like 24th in net rating since the break, which by Wizard standards is extremely, extremely good. Other players who were added and dropped, notably in that 16 team league, Alex, Jared Vanderbilt was dropped. Orlando Robinson was picked up by you for $12. So we'll take a pause here. Sell me on Orlando Robinson for $12.
I'm actually shocked that I got him. I didn't even really need him as badly as probably some other people.
I'm glad you got him.
I know. Well, yeah. I think I'm helping a lot of people by having him more than letting other people's opponents have him. But I mean, it's just exactly what we talked about with Toronto. It's like Jakob Poeltl is probably not going to play that much anymore. Yep. Orlando Robinson has from an offensive perspective, he's taken a lot of like short mid-rangers and threes. Like he's really inefficient, but he's a good passer. He gets boards. Like his past 4 games, which have not all been starts, but you know, he's playing real minutes, 30 minutes a game, 16 points, 9 boards, 4 assists, and a block. And I think he maybe has upside for more blocks, probably not a ton, but he's just if he's going to play this many minutes and he's a big man, he's got to be rostered.
I mean, 3 double-doubles in his last 4 games. Poeltl has already been ruled out tonight they're just calling it rest purposes, not even trying to hide it. And I mean, Poeltl played last night against Portland, and Robinson still saw 30 minutes off the bench. Gave you 10 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Not necessarily what you're looking for, but still took I mean, played more minutes than Pirtle, still took 12 shots. He's taken double-digit shots in each of the last 3. So I think that was a great pickup by you. We saw Adem Bona picked up. We saw Lonnie Walker picked up. Kevin Porter Jr., who continues to play well off the bench for the Milwaukee Bucks. They were just brutal last night overall, though, against OKC.
Oh, yeah.
Spencer Dinwiddie, by the way, was picked up for $0 by James Anderson. I was bringing back Fred VanVleet from my IL, so I didn't really have room to do anything this week, but I do kind of wish I would have just played keep away with Dinwiddie, even if I wasn't going to put him in my lineup.
Yeah, because that's the thing this time of year. I was like, when I was looking at the waiver wire, and I think my team has a really high floor in general. I'm not in a position that some other people are, but there are like guys you just think are long-term safe ads. It's like meaningful. Like, so of course you have to stream guys in and play your position, but like you also never know, and you have to evaluate your own roster. Like, do I have 3 guys starting for me right now that in 2 weeks might just not play basketball? Like, do I just need to functionally like have guys available? And Dinwiddie totally fits that bill.
He does. Are we actually concerned, by the way, that the Mavs might be forfeiting games next week?
Maybe. I really don't know what the league is going to do, because it feels wrong to like try to force them to play Anthony Davis. I mean, Anthony Davis, they're like, this is like a will they, won't they? He went to the G League, got a 5-on-5 practice in. Now he's back, and they really are at risk of forfeiting games if AD can't play. And I don't know. We're in pretty unprecedented territory. I don't remember, because the last time this would have happened would have been during COVID, right? And then they were just saying that those were postponements, which we all knew were not. That they were going to just not be played. But this is very different.
I would be surprised if they actually do forfeit games. I think that would be just a bad look for the NBA. I think the league will do what it can to avoid that. I don't know if that means, making some sort of special exception. As far as what I read, this is all very confusing. It's pretty much unprecedented. They could list injured players as technically active, and that would give them like the requisite minimum, even though those guys won't play. Like, my guess is that that's how it shakes out. Like, I wouldn't be like panic dropping every productive Maverick that I have, expecting these games to be forfeited. I think the league will try to avoid that at all costs, but insane that we are even in a situation where, this is making semi-national news over the weekend. All right, we'll get to some questions from the chat momentarily, but first, we are brought to you by Edge Boost. If you ever had your debit card declined or had to call your bank at 3 a.m. in Vegas, hopefully not. If that has happened to you and you're listening to this pod, you should probably be doing something else with your time. But if that has happened, Edge Boost is the first consumer-facing online bank dedicated to the gaming industry. There are a ton of benefits to using Edge Boost. You deposit $25, you get $25, $250K per day in debit deposits, unlimited withdrawals, cashback on sports betting and DFS, 100% approval for all gaming activity, financial segmentation for discretion and responsible gaming. It's compatible for prediction markets, iCasino, DFS, sports betting, lottery, brick and mortar casinos, horse racing, and sweeps. No transaction reviews or account freezes. You can visit edgeboost.bet. Do it right now. Use our promo code ROTOPOD. That's promo code ROTOPOD over at edgeboost.bet. We're also brought to you by Pool Genius. And it's a good time to be talking about Pool Genius because we got March Madness pool starting up this week. Pool Genius gives you data-driven picks and strategies to help you outsmart the competition. With over a decade of analytics and historical data, Pool Genius is the only site dedicated exclusively to helping people win sports pools. With Pool Genius, users win 3 times more often than expected. And RotoWire listeners get exclusive offers over at Pool Genius. Go to poolgenius.com/RotoWire for up to 55% off, or you could start a 5-day free trial. That's poolgenius.com/RotoWire. Very good time to go check out Pool Genius if you need a little help with those March Madness pools. Got some good questions stacking up in the chat, Alex. Aaron Van Buren says, do I drop Sochan for Collins, who I dropped originally?
There's going to be a lot of dropping and re-adding players, I think. Do you drop Jeremy Sochan? That has to be Zach Collins, right? I feel like we were having this issue last week where it's like, is this Zach Collins? Or...
Yeah, well, I assume it is because, John Collins has been ruled out for the next couple of weeks. He's not done for the season technically, but we're probably talking like end of March. So we will assume Zach Collins.
I don't think you need to do that. I was hoping we'd see more out of Zach Collins, although he did have 5 fouls the other night. We only played 19 minutes,
Yeah.
but they're still kind of ramping Vooch up. So I'm not 100% sure what's going to go down there, but I'd be fine dropping. Well, I don't know. Who would you rather have? I think I would rather have Sochan. It feels safer.
Yeah, I mean, Collins kind of got Şengün'd the other night. 5 fouls in about 20 minutes. I think I would just chance it with Sochan at this point. I mean, Vooch is back. The Bulls are, just charging toward the 10 seed right now in the Eastern Conference. So the upside that he showed earlier in the month when Vooch was out, I just don't think is there. He's still going to be in the rotation. There still might be, 12.8 rebound nights out there for you, but I think I would lean Sochan. I think the minutes are going to be there. I mean, that the Spurs are also just kind of running out of people capable of playing center. Like Charles Bassey is out again tonight. Yeah. So it's really just Biyombo and Sochan.
Well, it's just, I don't know if frustrating is the right word, but it feels like Sochan should be better.
Yes.
You're looking at his stat line and you're like, really?
Spurs are the number one offense in the NBA over the last 10 games, by the way.
It's very, his past 3 games have been very good. I'm not, I don't want to say it, but like before that, it's a lot of single digit scoring. It's just, you'd think there'd be a little more usage available, some rebounds. Yeah. It's just not.
A couple other questions from Aaron here. We'll hit these quickly. I'll let you take this one because it involves Naji Marshall. Naji or Dinwiddie? He said he's on a bye this week, so it's more about holding for beyond.
Well, PJ Washington did return the other night, but Naji Marshall still played 36 minutes.
Right.
So, because I think it will ultimately be Dwight Powell, and they've been doing like Kessler Edwards, and I don't know. So, I think I would rather have Naji Marshall because he's giving you more scoring consistently than Dinwiddie, and occasionally have a big assist game. Yeah, and you get the defensive stats too. So I think I'm just all in on Naji Marshall.
Yeah, more efficient too. I mean, Dinwiddie is still going to be prone to those like 2 for 14 type of nights. So I think if you trust the role with Naji Marshall, which it sounds like we do, I would favor him over Dinwiddie. Aaron also says I picked up Fred VanVleet off of waivers. Is he worth keeping rest of season? I think so.
Probably. I mean, it is a bit of a disappointing season, but
yes,
he had a good game. Played 35 minutes, had 23 and 7. So I wouldn't drop him now.
No. I mean, that was his 3rd game back. He was pretty rough those first 2 games, as you'd expect. I mean, he's played 4 games since the start of February. So I think you just kind of trust the track record with VanVleet, and like you said, the minutes seem to be fully back up. That was a competitive game on Saturday against Chicago. Evelyn Gutierrez says Justin Champagnie or Toumani Camara in a head-to-head league. This is the most like mid to late March fantasy question of all time.
I love this question. I think I would just stick with Camara's consistency. I mean, Champagnie, we talked about a lot about Champagnie earlier in the year. Now he's back, now that Koulibaly's out for the rest of the season. I think they have similar upsides, but Camara's done it like the entire season, and it doesn't seem like he's going to get shut down or anything like that. I mean, I guess in theory, Camara has a higher shutdown risk than Champagnie, but I don't think I'd be basing my decision off of that.
Another very March fantasy basketball question. Do you trust this run from Keon Johnson for the playoffs this week? He's in a 9-cat head-to-head.
Do I trust it from Keon Johnson? No, not necessarily. I mean, the shooting is hot. He's 50% from 3 over the past 2 games, right? He's 9 of 18. If they're going to sit a bunch of guys, there will be upside, but it's just hard to know, like, well, are they going to play D'Lo one night? I know Cam Thomas is out for the rest of the season, but I would not put Keon Johnson in the I trust this guy category.
I am just kind of skeptical of, excuse me, everything that's going on with the Brooklyn Nets. I don't know if there's really anybody that you can necessarily, say that you would feel extremely confident in. As like just look at the game logs for Keon Johnson. I mean, you see the highs and you see the extreme lows just over the last 5 to 10 games.
The only thing consistent about him is his steals.
Right.
He's a good defender. He's a great athlete. But he was, to me, he's just firmly a streamer. Like, evaluate what categories you need. If he fits, it's fine. If he doesn't, you can get rid of him.
All right. Interesting one from William. He says, should I drop Franz Wagner?
No.
I don't think so either. I was wondering if I missed something when it comes to Franz Wagner. I mean, it's not, I will say it's not a good schedule for Orlando this week. They're on a 2-game week. So that would be the impetus here.
Yeah, 2-game week, but in theory, he's still going to give you, 40 points, 50 points, 12 rebounds. It's just, I don't think it's a fair question because obviously, like, there is a point which a very good player in a 2-game week is not worth having based on a difference between a 4-game player and your playoff situation and all that. But I think Franz Wagner is just a little too good for me to worry about game count.
All right. We got a question from Mr. Fire Nuts. He says, what is it with this sport? Forget about fantasy quickly. And RJ Barrett sitting for rest, not a back-to-back. They play Monday, sit Wednesday, play Friday, 2 games in a 4-game week, no back-to-backs. They must be exhausted. Not really a question, but I think this is just a general complaint about the Toronto Raptors, which I certainly sympathize with that. So thank you, Mr. Fire Nuts. If you've been rostering any Raptors, it's been very frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think it's good for the league. I don't think it's good for for our jobs, it's especially annoying. For people playing fantasy, of course, it's annoying. But even just like if I want to sit down and I turn on League Pass and maybe it's the weekend and I'm not as locked in on who's in or who's out, I'm just like, oh, this game is on, I'll watch. And then it's like, actually, I won't. I won't be watching that game. So yeah, and then of course it's a situation where, well, if you're playing Philly and they're sitting everybody, maybe we can get away with sitting our guys and rest them for the playoffs. And yeah, I wish it wasn't like this, especially with essentially a little less than a month left of the season.
All right, Matt says, I have Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Jalen Williams. What do I do? It's first week of playoffs. His league ends. Looks like at the end of the regular season, 2 rounds, 2 weeks per round. So we almost have to take this on a player by player basis. There was some optimism around LeBron coming into the weekend. They seem to have kind of backed off on that. He's going through on-court workouts. He's back in LA. Still don't know where he was other than LA. But it sounds like, the Lakers have essentially ruled him out for the week ahead, which is 4 more games.
It's frustrating. It seemed like maybe the way they were talking about it, it was almost like he would come back if they lost a lot. And then they got that win over Phoenix, and it was kind of like,
enough.
Maybe we'll keep him out. So yeah, man, unfortunately, Matt, like we talked about AD earlier. That's as confusing as any situation we've ever come across in terms of like injury forfeiting games. Like that's totally up in the air. I think the thing you have to look at for OKC, or the thing you have to worry about for OKC, is they clearly don't need Jalen Williams to come back soon. Like they can get away with just keeping him out till he's 100%. Not only that, but OKC's injury reporting can be kind of, I don't want to say unreliable, but they have gotten fined in the past for injury reporting, and they're not very forthcoming with that. So that also makes it. I don't know if there's a good answer here. You might just have to try to really piece this thing together in the time while these guys are out.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Williams was initially not on the injury report Saturday, right? And then ended up being ruled out against Detroit. Ends up sitting Sunday on the back-to-back against Milwaukee. So I get the sense that he's close. It's tough, though, because they don't play till Wednesday this week. So we may not get a Jalen Williams update, for another 36 hours. Then they play home against Charlotte on Friday and the Clippers on Sunday. These next 2 games are against Philly and Charlotte. They do not need Jalen Williams to win either of those.
I guess if you had to drop one of these guys, I would probably lean AD. Like if you're like, I have to drop somebody, I need guys to play in my lineup, I think I would just drop AD, because part of me thinks like, okay, even if he comes back, like if AD came back next week, I don't know how quickly he starts playing 30 minutes and if he ever really plays 30 minutes in a game again. So there's that.
All right, Daniel says, hello, good sirs. Hello, Daniel. I dropped Tyus Jones for Tyrese Martin and Jeff Doughton for Josh Green for schedule upside. He's in his championship matchup. We like to hear that. All right, so adding Tyrese Martin and bringing in Josh Green, what do we think?
I love these questions, man. I gotta be honest, like the Nets guys, they're all high upside, low floor. So if you need some variance in your lineup, I can't really say like, I mean, he started the other night, right? And had a good game, 16, 6, and 3 with a steal. He is one of those guys that can put up some numbers. Josh Green is always one of those guys who I kind of always wanted more from, and he had 20 points the other night, but was scoring in like single digits when the Hornets had nobody.
Yeah.
So I just like I'm about as anti Josh Green as you could possibly be. And Doughton, look, if he's gonna play, which he is, he's been putting up numbers. I think I put a bid on him in our 16 team stake league, just a keep him honest bid in case I didn't get anybody. But Doughton's played 20 minutes the past 4 games at least, averaging 19, 3 and 3 with a steal and a half. I mean, he's going to shoot worse than he's been shooting, but that's fine.
Who do you like best out of Moses Moody, Nembhard, Harrison Barnes, or Ricky Council? 9-cat head-to-head, and Matt is in his fantasy finals. Love to see that.
Council's been putting up some numbers. You never know with Harrison Barnes. I still have some concerns that these Spurs guys are kind of going to get quiet. They're going to quiet quit, like Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes. And Barnes is on a nice run, but everybody who listens to this podcast or has played fantasy basketball for multiple years knows that the Harrison Barnes 6-game hot streak is immediately followed by a Harrison Barnes 6-game cold streak in which he scores 12 total points. So I mean, it's probably Moody or Nembhard in my opinion. So Kuminga came back.
Yep.
I don't think do we have word on Pajemski out at least 2 more games?
Yeah, we know he's out 2 more. And they play tonight. They play tonight and tomorrow. So he's going to miss the back-to-back to start the week.
I think Moody or Nembhard entirely depends on do you need assists or not. I know Nembhard's assists are down. I think it's that. Do you need the assist upside or not?
Yeah. All right. Just another amazing question, but a prescient question from Chris Chungus. He says, Orlando Robinson or Adem Bona for next week? He's in a 9-cat league, so he doesn't like Orlando Robinson's field goal percentage, but worried about Bona's ankle. I think this has to just be Orlando Robinson by default because Bona has already been ruled out for tonight's game. It is a 4-game week for the Sixers, but I don't know if I want to chance that. They're on a road trip as well. That always makes me a little squeamish with these guys coming back.
I would go Orlando Robinson unless you are like absolutely desperate for blocks. Like if only blocks will be the difference between you winning and losing, you might have to take the chance with Bona, but otherwise Orlando.
All right, we got a super chat from Kevin. Thank you. He says, which 2 players would you play this week? So we're looking for some starters here. Isaiah Collier, Keontae George, Chris Paul, Karis LeVert. We got to pick 2.
Well, Collier's played every game, essentially. Yep. So that's huge.
It is a 4-game week for Utah as well.
Keontae's missed some time. Has put up better numbers than Collier. So, like, that's a bit of a concern. But he's like, it's a foot thing, and he's got an illness.
Yep.
So who knows? I don't know how much I really trust Chris Paul at this point. I feel like I'm kind of talking myself into Isaiah Collier and Keontae George. I think because LeVert's hurt too, man.
I know. I think it might. This question might just have to be Collier and Paul because of the injury risk here. I mean, LeVert sat out yesterday. He's missed 2 of the last 4. The Hawks are on a 3-game week. They don't play till tomorrow, so we're probably not getting an update on LeVert for another 24 hours.
Yeah, some of this, I think this is a very good question. I think this depends on, do you need a Hail Mary to win your week, and whatever your settings are, or do you just need to make sure guys are in your lineup? So like, if you need to make sure guys are in your lineup just to have any sort of production, it has to be Collier and Chris Paul. But if you really need to shoot for upside, if it's a playoff setting, if you're down big, there might be a situation in which you take the risk with LeVert. I'm a little worried about Keontae given where the Jazz are and what they've been doing. So there's a scenario in which maybe Collier and LeVert make sense.
All right. Well, we'll do one or two more here and make this a bit of a shorter episode. Ant says, "Hey guys, any waiver wire ads with blocks upside?"
That would be Bona, assuming he can be healthy. Trying to look down the list here.
There's
You
not much out there.
It depends. I don't know, man. I mean, Al Horford might be available. If you're in a daily league, that might work for you. I'm not entirely convinced.
Yeah, I'll say Zeke Naji's been blocking some shots, not playing a ton of minutes, but seeing just enough off the bench. You know, he's over a block per game.
You know what, Keyshawn George?
Sure.
I'm surprised looking at this that he's 29% rostered in Yahoo, but Keyshawn George, the past 12 games, is averaging 1.7 blocks, and he's been playing big minutes. So that might be a little sneaky, and you're getting out of position blocks.
Yeah.
So if you grab him at forward, you might be able to stream in some centers that are, it's more traditional position.
All right, we'll end on this. Playoffs start today. Do I drop Powell to stream in other players? I'm assuming this is Norm Powell. He made his return on Sunday night. Didn't look great. It was a blowout. Clippers, just dominated the Hornets, won by like 35. 3 of 13 from the field, but was coming off of a 7-game absence. I think he's missed like 12 of their last 13 prior to that. I will say I think I would ride it out with Norm Powell. If you're in a shallower league, maybe there is somebody out there who's appealing. They play Cleveland, Memphis, and OKC this week. So you got like one decent matchup in Memphis, two that we don't necessarily love. 4-game week, two 3-game weeks in a row for the Clippers. I don't know. If this is a 14 or a 16 team league, I don't think you're going to do better than Norm Powell. But if you're in a 12 or a 10 team league, maybe.
Yeah, didn't he get someone? I thought he came off the bench for the second half of that game. Maybe I'm getting him confused with somebody else. That would make me worried. And we know about hamstring issues. Like, they always linger. It's going to be really hard for you to find someone that's a better scorer. But if you don't need the points, I don't hate it, because it's possible he's limited. They take him slowly. They sit him a game here or there. But if you need his points production, if you need his efficient shooting, it is tough to drop him.
All right, we'll end it there. Appreciate all the questions. As always, guys, you guys make this pod very easy and very fun for us to do. We'll keep doing this throughout the rest of the regular season. That means more Sixers talk, more Mavericks talk, more Nets talk, more Raptors talk the rest of the way. But we'll be, still putting out 4 episodes per week through the end of the year. I'll be back with Brandon Kravitz later this week. We'll have Mike Barner and Kirian Sprecher, and of course, our flagship Friday waiver wire episode with Alex and Ken Kreitz. Although Ken is on vacation, I'm told, right? So I assume he's out this week.
I think he's out again this week. He's in Florida.
Jeez.
Yeah,
man, all
lucky
this
guy.
does.
Hey, I'm taking a vacation in early April, so I get to skip. I'm about to skip a week of April basketball. It's gonna feel amazing, honestly.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, thank you as always for listening, for watching along. Make sure you're subscribed, of course, here at the RotoWire YouTube channel. We'll keep bringing you all this content through the rest of the season.